News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. And there's your closing bell for this Wednesday on Wall Street, where there were more concerns about the labor market after a private payrolls report from ADP. We're going to have all of that for you just ahead. But first, let's bring you the closing numbers. We do it for you each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 gained 21 points. NASDAQ gained 40 points. The Dow gained 408 points. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.06%. The 2-year yield at 3.48%. Bond investors have told the Treasury Department they're concerned about Kevin Hassett's potential appointment as Fed chair. Sources tell the Financial Times that investors expressed concerns that Hassett, the current White House National Economic Council director, will cut interest rates aggressively to please President Trump. Morgan Stanley, one of the key players in financing the artificial intelligence race, is considering offloading some of its data center exposure via a so-called significant risk transfer. Sources tell Bloomberg Morgan Stanley has held preliminary talks with potential investors about an SRT tied to a portfolio of loans to businesses involved in AI infrastructure. We're going to get into all of the eco data just ahead, but first, the Pentagon's acting inspector general has turned over the results of a probe into whether Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth violated secrecy rules when he shared attack plans on the Signal messaging app. You might recall the group chat about airstrikes in Yemen inadvertently included the editor of The Atlantic magazine. The Senate Armed Services Committee has the report, and a declassified version is expected to be released tomorrow. Multiple media outlets say the report finds that Hegseth put U.S. personnel and the mission at risk. Convicted sex offender and associate of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, told a judge that releasing grand jury transcripts from her case would make it harder for her to get a new trial. Her lawyers say those materials include unproven allegations and would prejudice the courts against her. Meanwhile, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee have received records from J.P. Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank related to Jeffrey Epstein. They say they plan to release them in the coming days. House Democrats have also released photographs and videos of Jeffrey Epstein's home on that private Caribbean island where his accusers say he trafficked underage girls. President Trump has pardoned Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar of Texas and his wife in a federal bribery and conspiracy case. Cuellar says he's grateful.
I want to thank President Trump for this action that he took. On behalf of my wife and my family, I want to say thank you.
Trump claimed on social media, without presenting any evidence, that the Cuellars were prosecuted because the congressman was critical of President Biden's immigration policies. And President Trump has now unveiled his administration's plan to relax Biden-era fuel efficiency standards to lower consumer costs. The new proposal lowers the corporate average fuel economy requirement to about 34.5 miles per gallon for the 2031 model year and eliminate a credit trading program used by automakers. Ford CEO Jim Farley says his company will reinvest those savings.
This allows us to invest in affordable vehicles made in the U.S., which we will take the lead on, and will allow us to make vehicles more affordable.
Critics say the proposal will encourage U.S. automakers to produce less efficient gas guzzlers. But the Trump administration says it will save Americans $109 billion in 5 years. Back to that eco data now. We're getting a last major look at the labor market before the Fed's final rate decision of the year. Private payroll provider ADP says companies lost 32,000 jobs in November. Economists surveyed by Bloomberg were looking for a gain of 10,000. Bloomberg's Enda Curran has more from Washington.
This does lean into what the kind of other sentiment or survey indicators have been telling us, that the labor market is softening, that we're moving from low hiring, low firing to something else.
Bloomberg's Enda Curran in Washington. The official jobs numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics with more comprehensive data won't be made available until December 16th after the Fed meeting. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang on Capitol Hill today telling reporters he's in town to answer questions about AI. Well, now NVIDIA may be on the verge of securing a massive lobbying win as lawmakers kept a measure out of must-pass defense bill that would have limited NVIDIA's ability to sell their advanced AI chips to China. Bloomberg's Caroline Hyde.
So thus far, he's got a lot of persuading to do, not only of lawmakers, the banking committee that signs off on these export controls. Can he persuade them that it's better to win the AI race with his chips?
Hear more from Caroline Hyde on the Bloomberg Balance of Power podcast. Microsoft shares fell after a report that the company lowered expectations for business customers to spend money on its Cloud Units marketplace for AI models and agents. Several divisions at Microsoft Microsoft have lowered quotas for salespeople to increase sales of certain AI products after many missed their targets. Microsoft denies the report. The Kremlin says Russian President Vladimir Putin held, quote, useful talks with White House envoy Steve Witkoff and President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner yesterday. But once again, they left without any breakthrough to end the fighting. We get more with Bloomberg opinion columnist Mark Champion.
Whether this can actually move forward, it really depends on how the Americans play it and whether there was any sign of real movement from the Russians, because that initial deal with the 28 points that the Russians still like to sort of, lean on, that one was really poison.
Bloomberg opinion columnist Mark Champion. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. This is Bloomberg.